grew up very poor, but every single person who I knew was the same thing. I was raised by a single mother because she left my father because he was quite a brutal drunk who would come home at night and beat on the door, and she would push a dresser in front of the door and say, "You'll fall asleep soon," and usually he did. And she'd lock him in a room, and he'd climb out the windows on the first floor, and she'd hide his shoes, and he'd go down the street in his stocking feet, waving his fist at her. So one morning, before morning in the dark, she woke me up and said, "We're leaving." Got a suitcase, and I got my pajamas, and we got on a subway train and went to the other side of New York City, and I didn't see him again for 16 years. So women got paid less, even less than men then than they do now. So we had hot dogs for dinner almost every night. Hot dogs. She'd say, go to the delicatessen, get 4 hot dogs, half a pound of potato salad, and 1 tomato, and make sure it's a good tomato. So I would go up there, and the man and the woman who ran it both still had tattoos on their arms from concentration camps, and he would always say to me, "You're a gentleman and a scholar, Mickey, you'll be okay." And I was dirty-faced, and he would often give me a pickle, kosher pickle to eat on my way home. But this neighborhood, this is far from the big buildings of Manhattan. I never saw those. I lived on Mars, lived on the border between Brooklyn and Queens, and it was an area completely surrounded with factories and factory trucks going up and down. Right behind the row house I lived in, there was a passenger train that was so close I could read the headlines on newspapers if I could read, which I couldn't, but I could see the headlines on newspapers. And the elevator train was exactly 4 houses away from where I was. And they've gotten rid of most of them, but if any of you have ever been to New York or seen the French Connection, that elevator train that goes steel cars on steel wheels, on steel tracks, on steel girders going into the concrete in the ground, that was so noisy that every time we were having a conversation, 10-year-olds on our street, everybody would just stop talking when the train was coming, and then pick it up when the train left, right in the middle of a sentence. And we'd be listening to the radio, because this is before television, believe it or not. You all know that. No, 1 or 2 of you know that. And the rest of the women, they don't know. We'd be listening to Superman, and is he going to save the Earth again? And we don't know, and Superman's coming in, and the Earth is going to vanish and blow up, and then the train would come. And when the train left, he said, "Join us next week." Next week. He said, "We don't know if Superman saved the world." And our elementary school was even closer to the elevated train than where I lived. And so, always be 2 + 2 is train coming. Nobody ever learned anything about 2 + 2 or anything else. But one of these factories, this is so great, because one of these factories, everything else turned out greasy, ugly, metal, steel stuff. But one of them made ice cream. It was Bungalow Bar ice cream. And they had pickup trucks, 1953 Chevy pickup trucks. And on the back of it was a little, where they kept the frozen, the dry ice and the ice cream was made to look like a little bungalow, which none of us had any idea what a bungalow was. But we never got ice cream out of them, but they would throw all their cardboard boxes into this outdoor fenced-in area, which was 2 stories high, as high as the factory, and about 10 feet wide and 30 feet long. It was gigantic, and nobody crushed cardboard then, just threw the boxes in there. We had no swimming pools, we had no rivers, we had no idea how to get to Rockaway or Coney Island. We had no recreation centers, but we had the cardboard. And we would climb up on this fence and get to the roof and dive in, and that was our swimming pool. And we could swim all the way down, we could stay underwater for an hour. Didn't have to hold our breath, and we'd just pull ourselves through the concrete, and that was our swimming. And once in a while, they would somebody in the factory would throw out these chocolate wafers that go around ice cream sandwiches, and some kid would find it, and start stuffing it in his or her mouth, and you can hear, when you're a kid, you can hear chocolate wafers getting crushed easily from 20 feet away, surrounded by cars. You can hear it, and you're going through there, and then the other kid, with the chocolate, he knows he's being chased, so this is like a James Bond movie. He's trying to pull himself through, but he can't open his hands. and the stuff is dribbling out of his hands. And the little kids, the little ones, you know, the 8-year-olds, they're down underneath like guppies, waiting for these crumbs to fall down the boxes. That was our summer in these boxes. And then, because it was a rotten age, and you had to belong to a gang at least when you were 6 years old, because after that it was too late. So kids from another neighborhood come over. And the factory's run by Greeks. They started by Greeks, run by Greeks. Only Greeks worked there. We knew they were Greeks because we were told they were Greeks. And on coffee break, the women looked tough, so they must have been Greek. The men, all their eyebrows, they came down to their mustaches. Mustaches, they went down to their chins, so we knew they were Greek. And they would sit outside and drink their coffee and smoke while they were watching us. And they always looked angry and mean. They're just staring at us. We were scared of them. So we would swim. Kids from another neighborhood come over. And they wanted to, they weren't going to share. No way. This was going to be their cardboard ocean. No, it's ours. No, it's theirs. So fists and fingernails and feet and knees and fighting on the street until we hear with a Greek accent, stop, stop. We look at this guy, giant of a guy with the long eyebrows and the long mustache, and he's got an ice hook out, and he's dressed like all of them were dressed in winter parkas because they work in the freezer all the time. And he says, stop fighting. I mean, I can't say it, but I remember him. And he says, no fighting. And the other people say, the other kids say, they want this. And we say, no, we want it, it's ours. And no, they want it. So he says, we're going to have a race. We're going to have a race. You pick one side, you pick one kid, you on one side, you pick another kid, and I'll see you at the top. And when we get there, the first one goes down, comes back up, gets to stay. Okay, so he goes inside the factory, climbs up a ladder to the roof. And we pick Joey. Joey's the biggest kid. He's the strongest one because his brother's got cerebral palsy, and he carries his brother everywhere, so Joey is strong. They pick Rocky, and I'm not exaggerating, they pick Rocky because he's even bigger than Joey, and he's mean and nasty. So the two of them climb up. The Greek says, you come up on this side. He points to Rocky. You, Joey, you come up over here. They got to the top. He says, go. All right, they dive in. Now, Joey's been doing this a long time, and he's really good at swimming through the cardboard. But we see Rocky. He's like a rock. He is going right down so fast through that cardboard, and we are dying because we know if we lose this, we've lost our summer. There's nothing else for us to do, nowhere else for us to go. Well, Rocky's at the bottom, and Joey's halfway down, and we're crushed. And the other kids, they're spitting on the ground. You know, you can't spit. Your mothers wouldn't like that, you know. But they're pushing, and we're pushing back, and Joey finally gets it. Rocky starts going up, and he gets about 5 or 6 feet up, and we can hear him cursing, and he's sliding back down. Okay. Joey gets to the bottom and starts coming up. Rocky goes up a little further, then he slides back down. There's more cursing. Joey's halfway up. Rocky is still fighting to get up basically off the ground. Joey is near the top. Rocky's screaming, it's not fair. Okay? Joey's head pokes up through the top of the boxes. We can see that. The Greek says, you win. He pulls him up out of the cardboard. Rocky crawls out through a hole in the fence. It's covered with chocolate syrup. Says, no fair, I want a do-over. I want a do-over. The Greek by this time is down the bottom, no do-over. He's got his ice up, no do-over. So Rocky almost stands up to this, but a big Greek with long eyebrows and long mustache and ice up is hard to stand up to. They leave, the other kids. They go away. They're threatening that they're going to come back, but the Greek is standing there. They're not going to come back. We climb back. He goes back to work, goes back in the ice box. We climb up to the top, and one of the girls, this is half of them are girls, right? Because girls are half of everything. And they're very good. Except for Mr. Rattenberry, you know, everybody else is good to girls. So one of the girls goes down to the part where Rocky went in, and she finds an empty 5-gallon can of chocolate syrup. The Greek fixed the race. The Greek gave us our ocean, our cardboard ocean. And one of the kids who's actually going to school and learning something says, Greece is by the Mediterranean. So we go back to school in September, and we tell, you know, what'd you do in the summer to a bunch of poor kids that never left their street? We all swam in the Mediterranean Ocean. The teacher says, that's dumb. You couldn't even find it. We swam in the Mediterranean. We were with Greeks. That's it. I was lucky. I was very lucky. I wrote a book about that, in case you want to read a book on it. It's got a whole lot more stuff.
Was it that one?
No, the other one. It's not that one, not the other one. It's the other one. It's called Cardboard Ocean.